All right, so we can start it off 7:05. That's not bad. Um, let's see. So the first item on the agenda was the approval of the minutes. Did folks see the minutes? Do people have
Yeah.
edits there?
They look very complete to me.
Sometimes I do them too complete because it's almost easier than thinking about what to write down.
Right.
Well, I saw them, but I wasn't there, so.
Right. And I wrote them, so I don't have any comments.
I won't be biased.
Can I move to approve them?
Sure.
Yeah.
Second.
Great. Let's see. So that's done. News about Concord farms and farmers. Everyone's starting to seed in the greenhouse. I did, since a bunch of us had posted greenhouse seeding pictures, I did finally get back to the Farms of Concord Instagram and I'll try to get that moving again now that we all have things to take pictures of. Steve, your picture was, things were moving along in the greenhouse. It was some beets or chard like this tall.
Things are coming.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we happened to notice some of our bags of seed are coming in from China this year.
Really?
Hmm.
Where do you buy most of your seed from?
Oh, all over the place. Rupp and Johnny's and everybody really.
Huh.
God, I haven't seen that, but.
Hmm.
So what do you have in the greenhouse, Steve?
You know, we started a lot of the leeks and
Right.
a few scallions. We got microgreens coming and Swiss chard to transplant into the greenhouse.
Nice.
Another couple of weeks will be more things.
Mhm.
We have, I've been really preoccupied the last few weeks. We've been having a terrible go around with the Jamaican housing business. They really clamped down this year and they disallowed all of the housing. And I mean, I have lived in a farm labor camp, but I don't anymore because the temporary workers can't live here. So it's no longer a farm labor camp.
Hmm.
And that's because we're within 500 feet of livestock. And if they work 12 months, so they're full time, it'd be perfectly fine. But if they're only here for 7 months, it's very hazardous and they can't live here. So we've been we have to build a new place, I think, and the best place we have to do it is one of our parcels in Sudbury that specifically prohibited temporary labor housing on the APR restriction.
Oh,
So
dear.
we're working to get that through town meeting and through the state to see if we can amend that and get something going. In the meantime, we've rented 2 apartments at the View place in Maynard by the new Market Basket there.
How many guys do you have that you need to?
Well, we hope for 10. 5 in each of 2 apartments.
Is that going to work for the labor inspections and stuff?
Oh, the meeting's not going to be that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the place is brand new. We're going to be the first use of one of the apartments. And the place has all been inspected 100 times by all of the Maynard inspectors. And we got a certificate of occupancy from the whole unit. And the state inspector won't accept that. He wants a separate thing, and wants the fire inspector and the health inspector to go into each apartment and make sure they're okay. I mean, there's no end to it.
outrageous. And forever, they were totally fine with what you did, and all of a sudden, they've decided this new rule.
It's not a new rule. It's an old rule.
Oh,
Just
Now,
one,
we've had Jamaicans for 23 years. And about 6 years ago, maybe, they started fussing about it, maybe 7, during the Obama administration. The rule's been on the books, 500 feet from livestock if it's a temporary labor camp. And by definition, anybody that works for part of the year lives in a temporary labor camp. So, like I said, that's where my house is, but I can live here, but they can't. Anybody else in the country can live here, except a temporary farm worker. I'm done.
okay, God. I don't blame you for being frustrated.
Anybody have any happier news? No. Hiring? Are people hiring? Done hiring?
we're in the process of hiring.
Mhm.
We just had a foundation poured for a new head house for a greenhouse that we're putting up. So
Wow,
that's
Ah,
fun.
Yeah.
exciting.
We're trying to, so in the past, the farm has been so interconnected with the Bemis family.
Uh-huh.
Hi, Liza. That a lot of the infrastructure like water and electricity comes from neighboring properties that aren't really affiliated with the farm. And
you're stealing it.
yeah, well, no, pay with that. I think we pay good money for it.
We're paying my aunt's water bill.
Probably pretty hefty.
Yeah, right, exactly. But so what we're trying to do is figure out a way to make the farm be not so tied, be a self standing entity. So this is a big step that we're taking right now, actually.
Wow.
How big a house you putting in?
24 by 24.
Yeah.
And only, it's one floor really. So it'll be good for all the pots and the trays and maybe some soil mix or something. But the greenhouse that we're hoping to build is 30 by 96, which is
Mm.
more than twice as big as anything.
Oh, that's what I was asking, yeah.
Yeah.
That one, that'll be bigger than anything, twice as big, more than twice as big as anything that we have now.
Wow.
Yeah, we have nothing. I mean, we do a lot, but we don't have a lot of greenhouse space. So
Efficient,
Yes.
what's that?
We're-
efficient.
I don't. When I'm carrying the plants in when they're predicting frost, I don't feel efficient.
Yeah. Great. All right. So the next thing on the agenda is the town meeting, the Article 49 update. I saw the what Steve and Brian wrote. I'm not sure if everyone saw, but Steve, do you want to give us an update on that, or Brian?
Brian and I talked and he wrote,
Okay.
and I went to the selectmen's
actually-
meetings.
He's added the last sentence, which I
She
think is
did. Yeah.
important.
But it's been to 2 selectmen's meetings,
Mhm.
persons meetings. And the first time they were concerned because Mark Hanson wasn't there.
Mhm.
And he was on the pollinator committee that apparently hasn't met for the last year, so they wanted to put it off for another week to get his input. And he was at this last one this past Monday,
Mhm.
and they suggested that maybe within view of the changes that have happened on the state pesticide board and so on, you might put it off a year and do a little more study on it to see if it should go forward, but he decided he'd like to push it forward anyway. And they took a poll of the select board, and they seemed to be about split in the middle, I think, as to whether they thought that was a good idea or not. And I said that this was still a draft and it hadn't been confirmed that they were approved. We're still working on it, but my personal opinion was that we should leave the pesticide regulation to the professionals of the pesticide board. And that's where it sits now. And I guess it comes up for another discussion before there's another meeting to discuss all the articles on the warrant and be discussed more there, I guess. But I don't know whether everybody's up to date or not, but the pesticide board did meet and they voted to make the neonics a regulated class of pesticides, so that you need to have a license to purchase them for anything except household use, like bed bugs and flea collars, and I think there are a few other applications in the house. And that if a third-party contractor comes in to do your landscaping and stuff, he has to have the written permission from the landowner that they know he's using neonics before he uses them. So there's quite a lot of regulation. They figure that'll reduce the amount of use substantially. And there is risk that, as Brian mentioned, that some of the alternatives might be more harmful both to bees and people than the neonics are. So there is a report came from Canada that said they don't consider seed treatments to be a significant risk. And that's about where it sits.
So should we have our statement edited for or adjusted in any way for the next stage of this, like the next meeting that's happening? Or would we not be using it until the actual town meeting?
I think the real question is, so as it stands right now,
Mhm.
we haven't really taken a position. So we're saying we're neutral on this particular article, but here's our statement, that we think that it's more appropriate for the state and for the state to be a regulating entity than all the different municipalities of Massachusetts, where one says you can't do this and one says you can't do that. And since they have moved, I mean, I think the real question is whether we want to come out against it or whether we want to just maintain neutrality with the statement. I think either case we use basically the same statement, but it's just a matter of whether our coming out against it or for it would influence individuals on the select board if they're that close.
I see.
I think.
And we would maybe have the chance to do that at this additional pre-town meeting.
Right.
Presumably, yeah.
It could take it off the, off the board altogether, so that it wouldn't even be discussed.
Yeah. That's interesting because I think part of our not taking a position was sort of like public relations, like we didn't want to be too like, who would want to stand up at the meeting
Right.
and be against it and have their, but if we could do it as like a, yeah, like as an influence before the meeting, I'd be more inclined to.
Well, it might be interesting to see what happens at the next meeting with the discussion of the warrant articles.
Mhm.
But it did seem to be about an even split down the middle of the select board.
Mhm.
Mark Hansen called me about the pollinator committee. And so he's interested in kind of pursuing a warrant to have that committee going forward.
Mhm.
Right, that was the suggestion.
So the initial thing he called, I thought he was calling me about the article in question. And I was like, I don't feel, he was asking me to attend. And I said, well, I mean, I basically wrote this thing and it states that, we don't take a position, so I don't want to take a position.
Right.
He said that the next meeting, which I guess is Monday, he wanted me to attend just to pursue kind of a continued warrant for the pesticide. And it sounds like he's mostly concerned about, golf courses and
Mhm.
use like that. But in any case.
At the first meeting I attended with the select board, I mentioned that there's a huge difference in the amount of pesticide you use to protect, you put right on a seed to protect the plant for a few weeks after it sprouts. And what you put on, not the seed, but on the ground around a 50-foot tree to be able to have it percolate down to the roots and the tree take it up and protect the whole tree for a number of years. I don't know. People have trouble understanding that.
Yeah.
And it's hardly anything that goes on a seed. I mean, when seeds are treated.
Well, and plus most of the research they quote on problems from seed is from when they were using the powdered seed treatment, not now what they use is it's almost like a lacquer on the seed. You
Oh,
just see looks like it's been shellacked and that's about it. There's no dust or anything from it.
but it kind of makes sense to me that, the experts in the state who are trying to come up with regulation to wait until they, come up with something. And as you said, are they also exploring just how dangerous the replacements would be, or?
They consider that, yes.
I mean, my takeaway from that link that you sent from Canada was that there's so much data out there and so much research that has been done recently that hasn't really been evaluated. And so they're not comfortable, making a decision. They're actually rescinding decisions that they have already made as they wait and see what the new data seems to indicate.
Yeah, I was disappointed that there's no data that's less than a year old from that.
Yeah, I didn't look that carefully at it, but I mean, I still think, we could just stay neutral and we could come out again. I mean, we already said we were neutral in the first one, I think, right?
But if you say you're neutral and you leave it to the pesticide board, well, you're not neutral.
Yeah, we basically say we're neutral, but our statement isn't that, we aren't actually that neutral. Yeah.
That's true.
I wonder if, but with this new information, if we could be against it, but with a more positive, like beginning to the statement about, just the postponing and being for continued pollinator committee and more information from the state or something like that.
I don't see there's any new information that would tip us to be against it more.
Well, I think what she's saying is like, we could come out against it with a statement that is more in line with, well, we're gonna follow the science. And we're gonna support the continued existence of a pollinator health committee.
Well, I guess I was,
Recognize the potential, impact of pesticide use, particularly systemic pesticide use on pollinator. So, I mean, I think we have to recognize that neonics are not popular.
right,
They have a, it's like DDT. It's like, it's like nuclear energy. You may have your opinion on it, and you may use it, and you may, have a justifiable rationalization, but you have to recognize that the people that see the word neonic, they just are, it's like an automatic knee-jerk reaction. So I don't know.
Do we have to make a statement now, or can we wait until after this end of March town meeting?
I would think that certainly from anybody who uses neonics perspective, they don't even want the article to come up. So I think at this point, we're trying to influence the people that are deciding what articles that are actually going to be at the town meeting and get voted on.
And if we made no statement,
I think we've already submitted one.
Yeah. I think we're making our statement either way, but we could keep our neutral stance
Yeah.
that goes with the statement if people didn't want to come out against.
Could I say that I very much like the statement that Brian wrote, Brian and Steve. I think it's very well thought out, and I endorse that position. Yes, it's neutral and then defers to the state, and I think that's a pretty clever way to go about this. One thing we know for sure is if this does come up before the town, it will pass. I mean, you're not going to have regular people in the town voting against bees and butterflies. So, that's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
I think what you already have is a good way to go. I would say well done. That's all.
yeah, I think we should just stick with it.
Okay.
Well, the idea is to try to maybe encourage the bill not coming up. Is that the idea? And I don't know, where would that happen? The next meeting?
The Monday meeting, I think that's
Yeah.
right.
I'm not sure, it's Monday or later.
Are you going to that one, Brian?
I don't know. I don't know when it is. I'm not sure if I'm going to Monday. I've tried to avoid all of them, but but I don't know if I can.
I don't believe it's on this Monday on select board, but if you give me a minute, I'll check.
Yeah, what is on this meeting is whether the warrant for the pesticide health advisory committee is extended into the future.
I see.
It is on, okay.
I think so. That's what Mark told me.
I'm gonna double check right now.
But I don't think there's any kind of Article 48 or 49 or whatever it is.
No, it's not on this week. I'm looking at it right now,
Mhm.
and it was on 2 weeks in a row, and it's not on this coming week.
That's a relief.
It will be back on very soon because the select board has to decide the pollinator group is going to ask the select board, will you sponsor this article? So we have to decide yes or no.
Mhm.
So we want to listen very carefully to what the agricultural committee is saying
Mhm.
when we make that decision. Now, if the select board does not sponsor it, it could still come in as an article sponsored by the pollinator group, although they are not really a committee right now.
Right, yeah, no, they've.
Or it could come in as a petition article.
So right now, to make well, the select board has already heard our statement. Or should we be voting on, no, they've already heard it. So it'd be a question of,
I think we need to say whether, so that statement is just, whatever. Nobody's
Yeah.
ever voted on it, so
right, so I was wondering, should we be voting on that statement right now?
I think so.
Okay. So for voting in Zoom, like each person says for or against, I think. So first we could have if anyone wanted to do any edits. But if no one has any specific edits, then we can just go around and people can vote. Did folks want to take a look at that again for edits before we vote?
I mean, I looked at it, but I mean, it looked fine to me. I don't know if I need to go back and look at it.
Okay, it's short, so we can take a minute if people want to.
Got one thing, I'm not sure just where we do stand, because I think it says we're neutral, but we'd like to leave it to the professionals. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's more or less what it says.
I'm not sure they're compatible statements.
Well,
Uh-huh.
Could this just be changed to where we'd like to wait and see what the,
It's already been
State.
decided.
I mean, it's take the neutral part out? I mean, the neutral is kind of wishy-washy. We're saying we want to wait and see what state says, but
Right. I'm just trying to pull it up here. So if for the March meeting, so should we be voting on the language and whether we are for or against?
They're this one and the same thing.
One and the same thing, okay.
So
Could I
would
just
say-
throw
would
in
say that you can still
something else, just as input, general input?
Yep.
I was at a virtual seminar for the pesticide credits. You know, you have to get so many hours to renew your license for restricted pesticides.
Mhm.
And Billy Kenny raised a point about he uses seed for his beans that are treated with neonicotinoids, and he says it's on town land. He uses
Mhm.
town-owned land, and his point was that, you know, by the time the plant gets a couple inches high, the treatment is pretty diffuse diffuse, and it's not really there by the time the plant is blooming and, you know, the beans are blooming and attracting bees. So maybe there's a point to be made that a flat out restricted, you know, prohibition for all uses may not make sense if the use has minimal impact on blossoming plants.
I think that's still in dispute. But I would say that first of all, it doesn't apply to all town land. We were careful about the language. So it's only new licenses and not even renewal licenses. So it would only apply to property. And so my understanding of this is it's basically a symbolic recognition that neonicotinoids are in bad reputation around the world, probably for a reason. But whether or not there's a reason, you can't talk to all the people and convince them if they've already decided that neonics are evil. And so that was a least path of resistance. Like, it's not going to affect anybody immediately. Ultimately, if neonics are vindicated in terms of their impacts environmentally over the next couple of years, because there's so many studies being done, then any kind of interdiction of neonicotinoids on town property would probably be moot. And if it turns out that they are as bad as some people think they are, then we will have done something that it's basically a symbolic gesture. So that's just where I kind of come down on it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you open the door, how much is gonna come in and go out.
I don't know. I mean, I know that different classes of pesticides come and go, and neonics, judging by public reception and by how they have been completely are not allowed to be used in United Kingdom and in parts of Europe. I mean, I don't know where they come by their information, but it seems like an unpopular class of pesticides. And it seems like the pesticide industry is probably trying to figure out a way to bring in something new. So I don't know what to tell you.
I think they definitely are. They've been working on it, but like I say, a lot of the alternatives to this may be worse off for everybody.
That's true.
During the selectmen meeting that Steve was at, Mark Hansen brought up the fact that some 5 years ago, back in 2016, that he had put forth a petition that apparently was passed by the town, instructing the town to do everything in its power to work against neonics. I don't know if anybody there remembers that or heard of that, but that's what, unless I misunderstood him, that's what he said at the recent select meeting.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Okay, all right. Okay. So the town has already voted back in the past to take steps to prohibit neonics.
Right.
Okay.
And it's just whether, what those steps are.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so I was just looking back at just taking a look at the statement. We could go through it, and I guess I feel like we might need to just, well, I guess there's no tweaking. We don't have, or unless people have an idea of tweaking the actual statement, it's really just using this statement and remaining neutral, but with this language.
There could be a tweak to exempt seed treatment.
But the article, like that we suggest that they amend the article?
Yeah. That seed treatment type of applications would be allowed.
Mm-hmm.
but not spray applications or
I see.
drench applications.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing, the seed, the majority of the seed on the market is treated with it. And I guess you can find some organic seed that isn't, but I don't know if you can with all your varieties.
Mhm. Right.
Is that the case or not?
Well, certain seed companies are pretty good about offering, a good selection of their catalog with untreated or organic. Certainly organic seed is not very widely available, but untreated is more and more available.
Mhm.
But yeah, there definitely are probably, half the commercial varieties are not available for people that need to buy untreated organic seed.
I know several years ago, we planted a lot of miscellaneous squash varieties that were untreated, and we had very poor luck with them.
Could have been the varieties too.
Well-
They pay a real premium also for, an organic untreated variety seed.
Well, organic for sure. Untreated, you don't pay any more.
I think in terms of the seed treatment, that maybe this statement could be kind of an educational thing, the idea is that seed treatment has very little active ingredient. It's effective when the plant is very young and not effective. It's basically it's gone or diluted before the plant blooms and attracts bees. And that's something that most people wouldn't understand, but maybe this is a place to kind of, do a little educating.
I do think that we'd have to be careful about what was like proven. I think that's part of the issue with the pollinator committee was researching, right? Like
Yeah,
I
there's all
think they have some differing opinions about how long it's in the plant.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the studies that were done on previous,
Right.
application methods that
Mhm.
which have evolved. I mean,
Right.
what I tried to, I feel like the ultimate question is, okay, is there a responsible way to use neonicotinoids,
Mhm.
or are they beyond the pale, right? And I think, judging from other pesticides, I mean, there certainly is a responsible way to use them. I mean, they're safer for people, and so, but I don't know, I mean, that's
Right.
just, but that's the ultimate question.
So would this like town article hold even if more information comes out about neonicotinoids? Like this would be like you would need a new article to overrule it.
Right.
I see.
Once the article prints in the warrant, that's it, unless it's amended at town meeting. And there's only certain types of amendments that can be accepted,
Mhm.
that are basically what they call within the four corners of the article. So then if it passes at a town meeting, you'd have to have a future town meeting to repeal it or change
Right.
it.
Okay, so Steve, what you're proposing to add a sentence that suggests an amendment to the article, or maybe as Chip said, an educational note about
Yeah,
seed
it
treatment?
would be an amendment, and I don't know where that can be made outside of town meeting where it's a continued article or not.
it's not a continued article. We're starting over.
It
So,
is?
so you could either persuade the select board or the pollinator committee to change it to include your amendment before it even prints in the warrant, or they could keep it the way they have it, and then you guys could propose an amendment at the town meeting.
Given that there isn't a pollinator committee, they're not going to be able to change it. And I don't think Mark would change it anyway.
Okay, so it seems like the statement doesn't, that could be added or not, but that's not gonna, we don't have to decide about the amendment suggestion tonight then.
I think you guys should really decide what you really think, and write that down. If that summary that you've already written is what you think, great. If you want to change it, great. But try to worry about what everybody else in town wants to do. I think you should write down what you're the farmers in the town that are advising the town. We all want to hear from you what you think.
So when would any changes be made, when and how? Or where?
Well, if I think it sounds like it would have to be made on the town floor, unless the select board decides not to even bring in the article at all, and then maybe Mark decides, okay, fine, I'll wait another year. So, so the first thing you want to do, I think, is just say what you really think. Do you want to see an article this year, or do you want to wait? And why? And then the select board will decide what we're going to do, and then Mark will decide what he's going to do. And if there's an article on the town floor and we don't all agree, then we'll fight it out on the floor.
But it didn't seem like Mark was very interested in putting it off a year.
No. I think we might want to just say that, as was said, say what we think, assuming that, I mean, I don't know what we think, but what I think is that, we don't support the article because the state has stepped in a way that has achieved a lot of the kind of goals that we were looking for. And that's the more appropriate locus of that kind of regulation. But we're not going to write that now.
Right.
And so we can't really vote on it.
Right.
So could that be something that comes out at the it's better if it comes out earlier, but.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of argument, why wouldn't we say that now?
Well, because you have to decide on the exact language. And
No, you don't. No, you don't. All you have to do is decide what your position is now. You don't have to get
okay.
every single word written right now.
Okay.
I'd be inclined to say something like what you just said, Brian, especially because action has been taken for now by the state.
Right.
Because we're not saying, oh, it's not like, we're not saying that, Nix, it's no big deal. We're saying that appropriate action has been taken for now.
Any strenuous objectors?
Yeah.
Mark? Oh, he's not here.
Yeah, Dan's for it.
No, I think it's a reasonable approach. I mean, I think I don't know enough about it myself. I mean, I'd like to see a year's worth of research and, see where the state ends up coming down on it. I mean, it seems like premature to, outlaw it or to limit it when the state is already working on this. Seems like a unified, I mean, it's not like it's going to stay in one town. I mean, it's.
Right.
Right.
And I also think the idea, restricted pesticides, that means that it's not going to, a lot of the goals of this pesticide committee had to do with limiting homeowner use and, landscaper use, and just putting it into a restricted category means that you can't buy it at any store in Massachusetts. You have to buy it from a licensed dealer and prove that you're licensed,
Right.
And document your usage. So, I mean, I think it certainly achieves a lot of the goals of, eliminating some of the usage that's, again, like, is there a responsible way to use it? Probably, almost certainly.
Right.
Are homeowners buying it and sprinkling it on their roses a responsible way to use it? Maybe not.
Mhm.
Well, when I was, before the natural resources, there was somebody there that mentioned, oh, I guess that must be what I used on my tree. I didn't realize that's what it was.
Mhm.
And that's the case, I think, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
People don't look at the active ingredient. They just look at the label. It says bug be gone.
Yeah.
Right, and if the landscaper's doing it, probably most people don't really
Right.
find out exactly what the landscaper's using, and landscapers not necessarily being that open about what they're doing.
Right. Well, that's still an issue because, they're going to be licensed applicators. So,
Yeah, but now, before they can use it on your property, they have to have a written statement from you saying that it's okay with you.
okay. Yeah, you said that. That's right.
I mean, I think I'm also on board with this too. I think just like the state is a better regulator of this than the town. Like
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable with the idea of the town doing this.
Okay, so how are we gonna communicate this position to the select board at the next meeting? Do you have a suggestion, Terry?
Well, I have to give a report every week, so
Okay.
I will say that I was at this meeting and that, let's see if I can summarize it.
Okay.
The consensus is that you feel that we don't need this article right now. We should wait because the state has taken action recently.
Mhm.
They might be a better regulator anyway, and we'll have more time to do more research. Also, the state new law says that homeowners can't buy neonics anymore. Only licensed pesticide applicators can buy it. So it seems like a lot of what this article was trying to do is going to be accomplished anyway. So the Agriculture Committee is going to recommend not to move the article right now.
Yeah. It's really far more. What this does is far more than what the article would have done. Article would have done nothing really. It's just a symbolic gesture.
Right.
Okay. But even though I give a very brief report, then when it comes up formally on the agenda again, I'll let Lise know and she can let all of you know, and maybe Steve or Brian or someone can come again, because at that time, the select board has to take a vote. Yes, we're going to put it on the warrant, or no, we're not. And Mark will be making his case. So that's the time when you want to make your case, and then we'll make our decision.
Okay,
Very good.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
great. Thank you. We will do that. Okay. Moving on to the spring forum project. So since Lise couldn't be here, I sat in on a meeting with Phil from Minuteman Media. And he was sort of laying out what information they'll need from us and what kind of commitments they would want from us. And also sort of, Emily was in this meeting too, and they sent us back with questions to ask you to see what we want to do for the meeting. I'm gonna have Emily help me summarize here, but in the agenda, Lise nicely wrote out notes for us of the specific things that Phil would like to know. But one idea that came up in the meeting was a talk about how long we would want the piece to be. And one suggestion that came up was maybe doing a shorter piece than we had originally talked about, something that would be more like 10 to 15 minutes to make so that people would definitely watch it all the way through. And Phil offered that if we wanted to go that route, we could actually do more than one, like one in the spring with a few demos and featuring all the farms, and another before Ag Week in August or something. Like it doesn't have to be one long thing. Like he'd be willing to work with us on different things, but I mean, he's willing to do whatever we want. That was just something that came up as an idea that might work well for our like outreach goals for the piece in the spring. Cause like everyone could put it on their website and people could watch it. You know, it'd be something that was a more manageable size. But let's see. What do people think about length that they were thinking? That we can still do the hour-long one as well. That
How
was
many
just one
farms
idea.
is it? How many farms are participating?
So I think 7 have said they were interested in doing demos, which he thought if we went the shorter route, you could do like half of those in the spring and half in the summer, potentially. Like mention all farms and have clips from all farms like on site or with the farmer for a minute, you know, with the sign, but the demo would focus on, you know, 3 or 4 each time, or we could do one longer thing with everybody in one. I think we have around 7 people that have ideas for demos or have talked about being interested.
I wonder if it was all in one round, if it would make more of an impact than splitting it. I don't know.
Yeah, it might. I think one thing that came up was just that because we're doing it in May, like if we split it up and had 2, it would be like some of the stuff could be summer action and just have more available. But
I mean, maybe it could even be just everybody for like 20 minutes or something, and one now and then, I mean, one in the spring and one in the fall. I mean, I like the idea of the fall one, but rather than split it in half,
yeah.
it would be one.
Yeah, Emily, what did you think?
I was the one who proposed a shorter time frame, pitching to the shortened attention span of our day and age, hoping that shorter time frame would permit a short and sweet, pithy welcome to spring, welcome to this town's farming community, economy, right in your backyard. And here are, and to Dan's point, if in this short piece we do highlights of 2 or 3 farms with demos, we would nevertheless, or at the same time, be sure to feature one way or another all of the farms. I mean, we could go around and take pictures of people's signs on the sides of the road or whatever. But Phil was also very interested in being able to talk with farmers during these, so they're not just a drive-by, but actually pause, say hi to Dan, see what's on Dan's mind, if he's not doing a demo, that is, so that we have a very compressed picture of short and long, short images and clips from farmers, and then the opportunity to see a demo. What I think one of the spring demos might relate to beekeeping. And so that was the thought. And we get 2 bites at the apple if we do it in the spring and the fall.
I like that idea.
Yeah, fall would be like August, maybe before Ag Day kind of thing. So really like summer almost.
So you're sort of talking about there'd be like a little bit of all the farms in this compressed one, and then we'd focus on like 3, and then we'd do the same thing again, where it's like there's a little bit from every farm, and then we focus on another 3
Right.
or 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there may even be some opportunity to do aerial footage, a drone, overhead.
Joe had been working on that.
Yes, the person who would have the drones is still interested in participating. I hate to speak for him in advance, but he declares that he's willing to do this, and Phil likes the idea, so there's a good chance that that'll be available.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably see how many fields there are too. I don't know how much it'll look bigger to people than they think, because they like see the part on the road.
Yeah, we had a kid come and take some drone photographs like probably 5-6 years ago, and when we put them out on social media, people loved it because they could see how close we were to Great Meadows, and like it's a whole different perspective on the farm. So.
Yeah.
Well,
we are too close to Hanscom, by the way.
There was an Anderson, Steve will know this, who was also a pilot, and he took some aerial photos of Concord farmland, 9 Acre Corner area, greenhouses, just wonderful to see those images. It really is such a different perspective. So could be neat.
So can I understand that we are foregoing the spring forum? That is a no more, nada. And this being March, and nothing is decided directly, there will be no spring forum. Now, you have asked previously that things relating to starting the growing process be part of whatever we had decided it would be. But if you're doing this in May, already, my dears, the Concord Carlisle Adult Education has had almost 5 grow your own organic garden sessions. So we're behind already. We're not giving anyone any information in the spring. All of this is going to be focused on summer and fall. So why don't we just do the fall and make it this a preempt to Ag Day, which we have not decided when that will be either.
I don't think that that it was ever gonna, well, that it was very instructional and more of the footage would be taken largely in April in order to have the piece in May, and it was more about drawing attention to the farms and like more of like a marketing and sort of information behind the scenes at the farm rather than like a how-to, because largely we were going to be using equipment and things that people don't have. It'd be more like a mini tour demo that that you were doing over video rather than in person. But
Well, I thought at one point the idea was to have demos for the public to come in and see, and this would be a part of the process. It'd be both public and video, but maybe that doesn't work together. I'm not sure.
I think that was the idea, and then when Phil came, I think it's still open. Like if any of us want to do tours, like we'd still be happy to do a demo in person for people. But in talking to Phil when he came to the meeting last week, it seemed like it'd be easier for us to do the footage part of the demo without the public also there. And so it sort of became two separate things.
So why don't we have him do the aftermath, and couldn't we post on Instagram demos on our Farms of Concord? 2 minutes, 3 minute
Mm-hmm.
thingy doos.
I don't think they can be that long on Instagram.
Yeah, I have no idea. I never.
You max out at like a minute.
Okay, so we go to YouTube.
I use YouTube. That was my problem last summer. I'm not doing that one.
I mean, I think the idea of having Minuteman involved is that just to have like a more professional finished product, and
Not like
it would also help by doing some of the work. But
Yeah, I think having a coherent product, makes more sense than just putting videos up, because it might attract more viewers.
So who's writing the script for this?
You are happy.
No way.
that is another thing on the list. I think that Lisa had the idea of potentially having Emily narrate, and I believe in that she probably also envisioned roping Emily into writing some of the script, would be my guess.
Does
But
Emily know about that?
Well, she does. And it was interesting in our conversation with Phil, one of the things we discussed was whether the narration could be recorded separately from the piecing together the images, so that the script is, and the narration is almost ushering the viewer from one scene to the next, or one theme to the next. It may not end up being a whole lot of words, but I did volunteer to help with that, and I certainly would probably be better off if I didn't do it by myself.
I think it'd be easier to tie it all together after you have the footage.
yeah.
I mean, as I just laid it out, I'm inclined to agree, because we don't know in advance what the footage is, and it will shape.
Farm work.
Sorry.
It's hard to script farm work.
Yes.
Well, what if we merge the ideas and have a general outline of what we want it to be, and then do the video, and then do the final?
Yeah.
script?
Final voiceover.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's a good idea, and I think deciding what the demos will be for the spring, and then starting to get them scheduled
Mhm.
And Phil's idea, if this is agreeable to you all, is that he would plan out when to come by your farms, give you a heads up, hope to be able to chat for 10 or 20 minutes, 5, whatever you've got. If your farm isn't one of the ones doing a demo. So there's a certain amount of scheduling that we'll do. And we did talk about having something to release right before Memorial Day.
So could we have Phil's email so that we can contact him directly instead of going through 5 different people to make schedules?
I think he would rather that somebody else do the scheduling for him. I mean, I don't think you have to go to 5 different people.
Well, I mean, if we say, okay, Phil, we're going to be in the greenhouse Monday through Wednesday from 10 to 4. Can you come then? Does he have to send it to you? And he has to send it to Melissa, and he has to send it to Brian before he says yes or no. I'll be at Brian's. I can't come.
No, what I understood was that we would, well, lease, or we're gonna have to discuss who's gonna help lease, but would collect, like you would say your availability, we'll collect a whole sheet of availability for Phil, and then he would contact you directly when it's more specific, like, okay, it says on the sheet you want me to come May 10th. Is that still good? It's raining. Like, it would be direct after we give him a general outline, is what I thought. Like when we give him the plan, like a schedule overview that summarizes it, but I could be wrong. Emily, is that what you thought?
That is what I thought. And I think that to me, it simplifies things for both sides.
So what?
And obviously
So
there'll be due dates.
what's the structure here? How do we tell you when we want to be available?
Well, that is one of the items on this list. We were going to talk about if any farms would prefer to do a demo spring or fall, and if they would rather just have footage filmed of their operation. And then later on the list, but maybe we need to deal with this, usually I would say email lease, which we can still do, but we do also need to appoint a committee co-chair, because Lisa's not going to be available in the next couple months as much, and I don't think I'll be able to do it just because now I'm doing some of her stuff at the farm as well. Summarize. But I think in general, it'll be like what we've been doing, where Lisa has been compiling, people have been emailing her like the summaries of their ideas and their dates of availability. Like Saltbox already said, they're doing bee installation April 4th, rain date April 5th. This is what they're going to be doing, and they'd like to do a demo. I think an email like that to, I guess, lease for now, but maybe later in this meeting we could figure out a coordinator for now. I don't, or maybe it would make sense to email that to Emily, or we could just talk about it right now if people had thoughts about what they wanted to do, but then could maybe email Emily and Lise, maybe, because I think since Emily's not on the committee, it's okay to include her as well. The dates and description of what you're interested in doing. Like, I know Hutchins already emailed Lisa a description.
I feel like if other people want to do more spring stuff, we could also come in at the later point with a different idea, obviously.
Yeah, same with us.
Is this for the demo?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Just to spread it out. It doesn't matter to us
We're
which
doing-
one.
So if we have 7 farms, we're talking
Mhm.
about doing a concentration of certain farms in the spring and then other farms later on. So how do we divvy it up? 3 and 4, 4 and 3. And, you know, I think we would be open to either scenario.
And I also
Good
think,
for the initial one that, you know, everybody gets some exposure.
Right. I think that's important too.
We're here. We'll be seeing you again in August.
no, we'll be seeing you sooner because you're going to come to our farm stand.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I was talking to Ricky Marshall this morning. I think he wants to be part of it, but I thought he was going to try to get in the meeting tonight, but obviously he isn't.
Mhm.
Well, I could follow up with him.
And
And I
when-
sort of got the impression that possibly some folks volunteered or expressed willingness to come up with an idea, and given this smaller format or shorter format, I would say that if people on reflection didn't want to do a demo, that would be fine too.
Right. And they could still do an interview. Yeah.
Exposure for all of the farms.
Do we have a title for this or a general title for this? Because the Chronicle footage last week was entitled something about what farmers do in the winter, and it had nothing to do with the context at all.
Really?
Please generate ideas. So the piece that was about, was it an hour long, the What's Growing in Concord
Mhm.
from 10 years ago? I think that's
I think that's a good title, actually.
Well, we can't do that. He's already done it.
What's Growing in Concord Redux.
Now, what's
Now, yeah, now at the end. What's
But
going
it's not now because it's going to be weeks after it's done.
Well, come
Let's
on.
get a better, more intuitive
Let's definitely be
title.
thinking about
What's
it.
growing in Concord a few weeks ago?
Title.
It's still growing. You didn't stop growing.
Yeah, it's still growing. It's just
What's
bigger
growing
than
in
it was.
Concord?
Growing post-COVID.
I like the post part.
Yeah.
We could grow
I like-
those.
Then when you Google COVID, we'll pop up.
That's a good look.
Yeah. Um,
Well, I mean, part of the idea is, you know, this is highlighting the launch or the beginning. Of course, it's not the beginning, but of the agricultural season of 2021 in Concord, Massachusetts. So if there's some catchy way of capturing that idea,
mhm.
new season, 2021, a new season. Yes.
We're still here.
No one will know it's about. Yeah, I feel like we need the word farm or.
Definitely, definitely.
We
Well,
could
we
just
have-
use our Instagram thing and say Farms of Concord 2021.
Yeah, why not?
No more 20.
Well, would it be easier if I email everybody soliciting ideal times for Phil to come along and film?
I think,
Sounds like a good idea to me, but
yeah, that seems great.
Okay. And I
And
don't
then,
have a good idea myself of the different projects. It sounds as if there's some flexibility or different demo opportunities.
Mhm.
Some may be more appropriate for spring than more appropriate for spring, more appropriate for later.
Mhm.
But I
I
think
think that we could talk about right now and sort of figure out, and then we can all tell you the times and what folks would be doing if they did demos. I mean, I don't think we have to decide what demo we're doing for the summer ones, just sort of like a sign up thing. Like I mentioned, like Saltbox has offered to do the beekeeping thing. We could talk about what other folks want to do. Like Steve, do you have a preference for spring versus summer? Because we could.
All right,
We're on the list.
if it's early, we could do bed forming and drip irrigation probably.
That'd be cool. That would be two very different things. That would be neat.
what was the first one?
Steve was thinking about,
What?
we've got the beekeeping, and then Steve was thinking about doing bed forming and drip irrigation, that kind of field prep thing, which I think tractors, everybody likes to see. I think that'd be nice. And then Grace and Happy, would you prefer a spring thing of like planting in the greenhouse, or a summer kind of thing?
Sorry, I had you muted because my dog will not stop barking. So,
Oh, no.
just, he's being a good boy right now, but it's good. It's trying. So we thought we would do peas. We would do peas in the spring. So ideally, we could do fall peas, but we would like spring.
Yeah.
If the availability would work, then we would take spring.
I think that's great because Chip, you had mentioned spring was going to be hard for you, so we could wait and do something later on.
Spring is okay. It would be planting either corn or beans or peas or strawberries.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like everything I use is at least 50 years old, the equipment. So it's kind of like an antiquarian kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I could say, okay, these are the days that I mean, at this point, it all depends on the weather. So when I get closer, who would I contact to say, okay, here's when I'm going to be doing this?
So I think we're emailing Emily dates of availability. I think if it's going to be a full featured demo, we'd want to try to line it up on the earlier side. I think if you want it to be a little more open, where Phil comes by and interviews you and just takes footage of whatever you happen to be doing that day, then it can be way more flexible.
Yeah, I think it's better if I know when he's coming and plan on doing something that, you know, he can take a, you know, video of.
Yeah.
So Emily is coordinating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I think if we can fit in those, that would be 4 for the spring. Dan, would you be up for doing something in the summer with Barrett's Mill, Hutchins, and you, I think, and then
Sure.
possibly, would that work
That's
for
fine.
you?
I mean, you
Okay.
know, we're always planting or.
Yeah.
We're forgetting Marshall.
No, I didn't forget. I was about to say, Steve, do you think Ricky would mind if it was summer, if we've got those 4?
I don't think it would matter. I suggested he do something with chickens and he seemed quite interested in that.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. Let's see if he'd be up for that, Emily, do you mind just including that info with him, maybe saying that we would get some footage, something lined up, but his actual demo, like a more in-depth thing with the chickens, would be in August?
Yep.
If,
That's nice. So that'd be 4 and 4.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that means, oh, sorry, go ahead, Emily.
Well, I'm just thinking that probably our films will be a little bit longer because these all sound really interesting, and if there are 4 of them and we've got 10 minutes, I think we'll need more minutes.
Yeah.
So that's something that
Well, didn't someone suggest like would 20 minutes be like a, would that be a happy medium or maybe a not worst of both worlds? I don't know, but like just to give a little wiggle room to include everybody, but still not have it be like a sit and watch a whole movie kind of thing.
Well, I think the, the guy takes the video and then he's gonna chop and meld together. So it might take an hour to, set up and have him film whatever he's gonna film, but then he can
Right.
condense it to whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Emily, it might be easier to condense than we're thinking just because not like the
No,
tractor takes a while to go down the whole bed, but then him filming it, it's like,
There's a lot of boring stuff. that
yeah,
goes on.
exactly.
I was
That's what
gonna
I was
say
trying
we're
to
pretty
say.
exciting, so I don't know.
Yeah.
well, when we take out all that boring stuff, we'll just have something dynamite.
Killer.
Yeah, right.
The
But I
highlight.
do think the condensing might, be in our favor. I don't,
Okay.
Did Phil have a suggestion about length or?
I think he liked the shorter idea.
Yeah. He had seen the film What's Growing in Concord from 10 years ago, and I think he was pondering pulling something like that together again, whether that was feasible or doable, certainly in a time frame of producing by May, and breaking it into 2 smaller pieces just makes it, I think, easier to undertake from his perspective. So we'll see. And and we'll learn. I mean, we'll learn from how it goes in the spring and bring that over to what we do in the late summer, fall, or late summer.
So where's this going to be available?
He said they post it through Minuteman. If it's short enough, you all could put it on your websites or send it in your newsletter, send links in your.
Or conceivably, link it potentially to their.
Yeah.
Because they have a YouTube site, right? That's like pretty active.
Yeah.
So we can either embed it or link it. Yeah. Which is great.
And we have our Concord Ag site too.
On the town site.
I was thinking on the Ag Week one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can put it, like we can link it from there. I don't know how to embed it, but I can try to figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like we have a lot of the framework. I guess the question is, what work is left to do if we feel like we want a subcommittee to help coordinate the project, only because some things will need to happen before our next meeting, although our meeting in April won't be before, I think it will be like kind of right before a bunch of the filming.
No,
Although I think the beekeeping filming would come before that. Emily, how much work do you feel like you were mentioning wanting some help? Do you think that we would want a subcommittee before the next meeting, or if we have enough of a framework to move forward until the next meeting?
I think we do have a framework,
Mhm.
and it's really principally at this stage about scheduling people
Mhm.
and giving Phil all the information that he needs to do his scheduling. So
Great. Yeah, because some of the other things on the list, I think we could revisit at the next meeting, like, double checking that we have the list of everyone we want to thank in the video, that kind of thing. I think we can do together next meeting, like have it on the agenda to come up with.
well, and I could get that started with a list. And
Yeah.
do you remember, or what do you think? We list all of the farms, all of the Concord farms who are in the movie, all of the Concord farms, full stop.
Mm-hmm. I think we should list all the farms in Concord, yeah, in addition to all the ones that are in it.
Why not take the brochure of the farms?
Yep.
It has a list and the map.
Mhm.
And maybe that's an opening or an ending.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Happy, have you seen Mr. Rotundo lately? How's he doing?
Oh, he's doing fine. He takes his daily constitution about 1 o'clock, and trots up and down the sidewalk.
He doesn't get enough exercise farming?
No, he's trying to do all his reading and ordering now. So when the weather gets good, he can bounce right out.
I see.
Nice. That's great. Okay. Does anyone have other things about the film project they wanted that we should discuss? No? All right, well, we'll carry on. Next on the list is vaccine update for essential workers. Lise did include, I think, most of what the update is up above in the email about, seems like there's no more info about what date we will actually be eligible for the vaccine, but tomorrow morning, hopefully we'll be able to pre-register for vaccines. I don't know much more than what she copied there. There wasn't new info today, I don't think. And then that will just be one way to access it. We'll still keep our ears out for other options, but those are just for the mass vaccination sites. And this is not official at all, but as my mom suggested, like making sure to write in, if agriculture isn't a drop-down menu, use like the wording that they do about agricultural worker.
Is the facility still set up at the school?
Terry says yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but we have not received any vaccine. So we did receive a little bit of vaccine, as you probably know, that was given out at the Harvey Wheeler Center.
Right.
So we have applied to be a regional site with 9 towns altogether. So hopefully will be accepted, and then we can use the high school site. We'll have to see.
Because I heard mention this online scheduling can do is only for the monster sites, I think. And
It
they
is.
said that others are gonna be available, so
Mhm.
I'm not sure how it's all gonna work out.
Right.
Right. They did say that you could pre-register for the big sites and then still try to access it other ways, just because that.
I'm mature, I'm all done. I won't be in your way.
Okay.
For you, Steve.
Or you'll just come run all our farms for us. And think.
While we're waiting in line.
Yeah, we'll wait in line or at the computer, just directing.
I want to try it out, make sure it wasn't harmful before I put you to it.
Oh, thank you.
So how are you doing?
Fine.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I ended up going on the CVS site and getting a thing in Fall River. So I drove like an hour and 20 minutes to Fall River
Uh-huh.
to do it.
One of Jamaicans called this morning to see if we'd had it and how we came out. And I told him that Joan and I had it and we were fine, but he might have a little problem because I heard it affected the younger people more and he's only a little over 60, so.
Oh, God.
Okay, well, we'll keep our ears out on that one. Appointing a committee co-chair, Lise was looking for some help for the next, well, really her term is only until June, so it'd really be for the remainder of her, for her term. She's definitely still willing to help out and run meetings when she can make it and stuff, but I think it would be, she had talked to the select board about what the like the protocol should be if she can't make it all the time, and this is what they suggested.
Can we nominate some?
Tickets.
Sure.
Eliza, would you?
That was coming. I mean, so this would be co-chairing with Lise until June.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Great. Liza's up.
Lise is still going to be there. She's going to help me how to figure out how to do this because I feel like I'm so new to this. I'm still figuring out what happens here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she will still, I think that most meetings she should be able to make. It's just like the amount of workload right now is, or for the next, because she'll have like daily treatments for a while. So yeah, that would be amazing. And I'll still be clerk. So I'll be taking notes and sending them to you and be at the meeting. So I think,
We'll figure it
if
out.
I wasn't clerk, then I would have offered to help her with that. Yeah. That'll be great. She'll be very happy.
So you should take a vote to vote Eliza co-chair.
Okay.
Roll call vote.
Happy's voting
Why?
early and often.
Oh, yes. Okay. Happy voting. Yes. I vote yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Everybody
Brian, come on.
can't even vote.
Yeah. Ryan. I think Joe,
Joe can vote. You're muted.
I think I'm not allowed to vote. I'm only an associate member. I think I don't vote. Isn't that right?
oh,
Okay.
I'm just
I actually am an associate member too. I take back my vote.
Trying to stuff the ballot box.
I know. Steve, you voted? Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
unanimous.
Unanimous.
Thanks, guys.
Except Liza, I don't know that she voted no.
Right.
She graciously accepted. Great. Other business. Do you folks have other business?
Are we going to set Ag Day?
Setting Ag Day. I was not prepared for that, but I think that let's talk about it right now and then put it on the agenda for next time. Like if we want to, we can look at a calendar and talk about some options, but I think we would need to look into, well, Emily can instruct me on who to ask at the town, but generally we check the town calendars and with the police and things, I think.
Yeah. So September 11th is a Saturday, and I think, isn't that the
That's where we've
20th
been before.
anniversary of 9/11?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if the town would, but that is the Saturday after Labor Day, which is, I think, frequently when Ag Day occurs.
Mhm.
It's already in my calendar.
Oh,
Oh,
I planned on it.
wow. So do we want to tentatively say that date and I can look into, I'll probably text Emily and then look into what calendars we need to check to see if that's an option.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the person I asked was somebody in the town manager's office. But
Right.
now, is there a ceremonies committee, or
I
what
think
would you recommend?
Jeremy, do you have an email for Jeremy who helps you set up these emails?
I'm sure Lise does.
If
Yeah,
not,
it's just-
let me know.
Okay, that's who we should ask.
Right. If he doesn't know, he'll forward it to the right place.
Perfect. Okay, I'll do that. Good point, Happy.
can I just clarify one thing? Are we still going to do demonstrations, or is this film really going to be the thing we're
Good
doing?
question.
Like demonstrations for the public, or
Right, yeah, I mean, that part about agreeing to do something and having a certain number of people come by, I don't know.
Right. I think that's that's a good question. I think that's up for that. I think that's an open topic.
Well, shouldn't it be that if you wanted to do a demo that's filmed,
Mhm.
it's just as good as a demo that has people?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think that I guess I had been starting to like lean away from the extra work of scheduling, but that just might be where my brain is at, trying to minimize activities. But and because the film was coming together and it seemed like it would be easier to film without people, you know, like so the person talking wasn't having to wear a mask, that kind of thing. But if people really wanted to still do on-site demos, we certainly still could. Yeah,
I didn't saying I had an opinion either way. I mean,
Yeah.
if everyone has, I just wanted to clarify that because it seemed like it was sort of
Right.
still hanging out there, but.
yes, you're
Well,
right.
And assuming that there is an Ag Day, it has often been an Ag weekend, which is to say, on Sundays, there's the opportunity to visit a farm and walk around and maybe see a demo. So that
Yeah.
might be.
For us, we're totally willing, we're open to doing a demo sometime during the season. We could do it in the spring. That Sunday after Ag Day is too hard for us, I think. but I don't know if but we'd be happy to do a demo if people wanted it in a concentrated area in the spring, we would do one near it, or if we want to leave it more open and have them as like just events that the ad committee helps coordinate throughout the summer. Like we could still help with the sign up genius, Lise could still help with the sign up genius and that kind of thing. What do folks itching? I don't know. Steve, you do all your events anyway.
Yeah, we'll do a few demos and
Yeah.
one thing or another from time to time.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
it's
so are we leaning away from having a spring set thing? Sounds like.
I guess I think so, but if anyone really wanted to, we could. But no one.
Well, spring is here already.
Yeah.
And so I think we just better finish up these details of the film
Yeah.
and see how that goes. Then the people who are doing the second half can learn off of us,
Mhm.
as well as add something more, maybe more vibrant or whatever,
Yeah.
the second half.
Yeah. And I do think we could, I think we could talk next meeting, especially in sort of an ag day discussion, like, do we want to have a program where people know about what different events are throughout the summer? And if people want to offer an event that people sign up to come for a tour of the farm, maybe that could be when people schedule something. So we could help advertise it if folks do want to do it, but it wouldn't be required.
Sounds good.
Great. I'll get that on next agenda. Okay. Public comment. Yes.
I just want to mention, someone asked me earlier about the wording of the statement that you're going to make for the neonics.
Uh-huh.
You don't need that wording now, but you will need it, eventually. Like,
Okay.
it depends if you want it to appear in the warrant, it depends. There's all these different deadlines and we can go over all that, but you don't need it tonight, but you need it at some point.
Okay. Brian, I feel terrible asking because you wrote the last one, but if you would be interested in looking at amending it to what you were saying tonight.
Yeah, it's just going to be tweaked a little bit.
Yeah, there's not much amendment.
No, but I think it just it won't be too much, but now we're for the select board at the next one, it's a little stronger, right? Yeah. Against, yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks for that reminder, Terry. Okay, so next meeting, Lise wrote in April 8th as a suggestion. Well, that'd be nice and early. Does anyone have opinions on availability or about that day?
For me.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll do that then. April 8th, 7 o'clock. Great. Okay. Somebody want to move to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Second her.
Great. We made it before 9. I didn't want it to be on me of going past 9 again, like back like the old days.
Hey,
We had kind of big things, so to talk about.
Give our greetings to Lise.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah, she's doing great. I saw her this afternoon or this evening. Yep. Yeah, doing
Good.
great.
Thanks, Melissa.
She
Thank you.
bounces right back. What?
So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I second that.
No problem. All right, I'll see you all soon.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.